What if I told you that money is not something you chase, but something you attract? And most people are repeating the wrong words every single day without even realizing it. Words that quietly shape their reality, words that keep them stuck, and words that block the very thing they are trying to bring into their lives. Now imagine this. Just 3 simple words could start changing the way your mind thinks about money, opportunity, and success. Not through magic, not through luck, but through a shift in how you speak to yourself every single day. Because what you say, silently or out loud, becomes the instructions your mind follows, and your mind decides how you act. And how you act decides what you receive in life. In this video, you are going to learn something most people never hear in this way. You will understand why certain people seem to attract money effortlessly while others struggle, no matter how hard they work. You will discover how your daily words might be shaping your financial reality without you noticing it. And most importantly, you will be introduced to a simple phrase, a powerful shift in language that can slowly reprogram how you think about abundance and opportunity. But don't mistake this for motivation alone. This goes deeper than that. There are psychological patterns behind success that are rarely talked about openly. Studies in behavioral science have shown that the brain starts to align with repeated thoughts and language patterns. When you repeatedly tell yourself limitations, your mind starts filtering out opportunities that don't match that belief. But when you change the language, even in small ways, you begin to notice different possibilities around you. Things you were blind to before suddenly become visible. That is why you should watch this video till the end. Because if you miss the full explanation, you will miss the real understanding behind how this works. It's not just about repeating words blindly. It's about understanding why those words matter, how they influence your focus, and how your focus silently builds your future. And somewhere in this video, you will hear the exact 3 words that people are using to shift their mindset around money. Simple words, but when used with consistency and awareness, they can start a chain reaction in how you think, how you act, and what you attract into your life. So stay with me till the end, because what you are about to hear might challenge the way you have been thinking about money your entire life, and once you see it clearly, you may never think the same way again. Welcome to our channel, The Soul Manifestation Code. If you are new here, subscribe right now, because we share powerful insights like this that help you understand the hidden side of mindset, manifestation, and reality shifting in the simplest way possible. These 3 simple words can shift how you think, how you act, and even how money responds to you in ways most people never notice at first. It sounds small, almost too simple to be important, but that's exactly why it works so deeply. Because the things that change your life the most are often the things you overlook in the beginning. Right now, you might be thinking it's just another idea, just another mindset trick, but stay with this for a moment, because what you are about to understand is not about effort, not about struggle, and not even about luck. It is about alignment. The way your mind quietly speaks to your reality every single day. And here is where it gets interesting, because most people are already using words that block them without realizing it. Words like, I can't, it's hard, or it never works for me. These are not just sentences, they are patterns. And those patterns shape how your brain filters opportunities, people, and even timing. Now imagine replacing that entire internal system with just a few different words. Not forced, not complicated, just simple repetition that slowly starts to shift the way you respond to life. You don't even notice it happening at first, but your decisions begin to change, your confidence starts to shift, and the way you see money starts to feel different. And the most powerful part is this. Once you become aware of it, you can't go back to thinking the same way again, because you will start hearing your own thoughts more clearly. You will start noticing how often your mind repeats limitation without proof, and that awareness alone begins to change everything quietly, from the inside. But I'm not going to reveal those 3 words just yet, because if I give them to you too early, you'll miss the understanding behind them. And that understanding is what makes them powerful in the first place. Money doesn't just appear randomly in people's lives, it follows patterns. And one of the strongest patterns starts in the mind, because before money ever shows up in your bank account, it shows up in your thoughts first. The way you think about money quietly decides how you behave around it. Money follows mindset more than effort alone. Two people can work just as hard, but the one with a stronger, more open mindset will notice opportunities the other person completely ignores. It's not always about working more, it's about thinking differently while working. And that thinking is built through words. The words you repeat to yourself every day slowly shape what you start to believe is true. If you constantly say life is hard, your mind accepts that as reality. If you constantly say money is rare, your mind begins to treat it like something difficult to reach. But if your words change even slightly, your internal direction begins to shift. Because words don't stay as words, they turn into beliefs. And beliefs are not just thoughts sitting in your head, they become the foundation of your decisions. They decide what risks you take, what opportunities you ignore, and what you think you deserve or don't deserve. And those decisions are what actually create your financial reality over time. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you believe. And there is a big difference between the two. Wanting something is surface level. Believing something is deeper. Because belief removes hesitation. Belief changes how you respond without needing constant motivation. That's why two people can hear the same opportunity, but only one acts on it. It's not intelligence, it's not luck. It's belief shaping action in real time, quietly and consistently, without most people ever noticing what is actually driving their choices. Most people don't realize how much their everyday language is shaping their financial situation, not because of lack of ability, not because of lack of opportunity, but because of the constant repetition of limiting phrases that quietly become their inner programming. Think about how often people say things like, I can't afford this, or money is hard to get, or I'm always struggling. These words feel normal because everyone uses them. They sound like simple reactions to life. But over time, they do something deeper. They start building a mental filter that shapes how a person sees the world. When someone repeatedly says, I can't afford this, the mind doesn't just hear it once and forget it, it stores it. It reinforces a pattern, and slowly the brain begins to operate from that assumption. Instead of looking for ways, it starts looking for limits. Instead of seeing possibilities, it starts confirming restrictions. The same happens with money is hard to get. That phrase doesn't just describe a situation, it becomes a belief. And once the belief is formed, the mind begins to treat effort as struggle by default. Even when opportunities appear, they are often dismissed before they are fully considered. I'm always struggling creates an even deeper effect. It turns a temporary situation into an identity. And once something becomes an identity, the brain works to maintain consistency with it. That means even small chances of progress can be ignored or avoided, simply because they don't match the internal story. This is how mental blocks are formed without people even noticing, not through one big moment, but through repeated language over time. And as these patterns grow stronger, the brain becomes trained to avoid opportunities that don't align with the belief system it has accepted as normal. Now here's where everything changes. Because once you understand how deeply words shape your mindset, the next question becomes unavoidable. If the language you've been using has been limiting you, what happens when you start changing it on purpose? Not randomly, not occasionally, but intentionally shifting the way you speak to yourself every single day. This is the turning point most people never reach. They recognize the problem, but they never fully step into the solution. And the solution is surprisingly simple, yet powerful enough to feel uncomfortable at first. It starts with replacing the words that keep you stuck with words that align with the reality you want to experience. Not because saying something magically changes your bank account overnight, but because it changes the direction of your thoughts. And when your thoughts change direction, your focus changes. And when your focus changes, you start noticing things you were completely blind to before. This is where small internal shifts begin to create external movement. You stop reacting from limitation and start responding from possibility. Even the way you speak in everyday situations begins to shift without force. It feels subtle, but it is powerful. And at first, your mind might resist it, because it is used to familiar patterns. It is comfortable repeating the same phrases, the same beliefs, the same emotional reactions. But the moment you interrupt that pattern, even slightly, something begins to loosen inside. That is why this moment matters, because you are no longer just observing how words affect your life. You are standing at the point where you can actively change them. And what comes next is not just information anymore. It becomes application, repetition, and awareness shaping itself in real time as you begin to think differently about everything you've been saying to yourself until now. The three words are: money comes easily. Money comes easily. Not through struggle, not through constant stress, not through feeling like you have to fight every single day just to survive, but through a mindset that stops treating money like something distant or difficult and starts seeing it as something that can flow with more ease than you've been conditioned to believe. Money comes easily. Say it slowly for a moment. Notice how it feels different from the phrases most people repeat in their heads every day. It doesn't carry pressure. It doesn't carry fear. It doesn't carry limitation. It shifts the focus away from lack and moves it toward possibility, even if you don't fully understand it yet. Money comes easily. This is not about ignoring reality. It's about changing the internal language that has been shaping how you respond to reality. Because every time you repeat struggle-based thoughts, your mind builds more evidence for struggle. But when you introduce a new pattern, even something as simple as these three words, you interrupt that cycle. Money comes easily. At first, it may feel unfamiliar. Your mind might try to reject it. It might bring up past experiences to contradict it. That is normal, because the mind always defends what it has known for a long time. But repetition is what slowly weakens old patterns and creates space for new ones. Money comes easily, and the more you repeat it, the more your attention starts shifting without force. You begin noticing different conversations, different ideas, different possibilities that were always around you but never fully registered before. Money comes easily. Let it sit. Don't rush it. Let it repeat itself in your thoughts naturally until it stops sounding like a sentence you are saying and starts feeling like a direction your mind is learning to follow. Repetition is one of the most powerful forces in shaping the human mind. It doesn't feel dramatic in the moment, but over time, it quietly rewires the way you think. When you hear or repeat something again and again, your brain starts treating it as familiar. And what becomes familiar eventually starts to feel true, even if it didn't at the beginning. That is where the first shift happens. Repetition rewires thinking. It slowly replaces old mental patterns with new ones, not instantly, not magically, but through consistent exposure. The mind learns through patterns, not single moments. So whatever you repeat the most becomes the strongest voice in your inner dialogue. And once thinking starts to change, everything else follows a chain reaction. Because thinking is not just abstract, it directly influences how you make decisions in daily life. Big decisions, small decisions, even the ones you don't notice. The way you respond to opportunities, the way you react to problems, the way you judge situations, all of it starts in thought. Thinking changes decisions, and decisions are where real life starts to shift, not in ideas, but in actions. Every financial result, every opportunity taken or missed, every step forward or backward is shaped by a decision at some point, and those decisions change results over time. Slowly, quietly, but consistently. That is how transformation actually happens in real life, not through one moment, but through repeated choices guided by repeated thoughts. When you believe money comes easily, something subtle begins to change in your behavior. You stop acting desperate in situations where others feel pressure. You stop chasing every opportunity with fear of loss. And instead, you start noticing opportunities with a calmer mindset, without emotional noise blocking your judgment. That shift doesn't remove effort, but it removes panic. And when panic is removed, clarity increases. And in that clarity, people often see options they were completely blind to before. This is not magic. It's important to understand that clearly before going any further, because when people misunderstand this idea, they either expect instant results or dismiss it completely. Both reactions miss the real point. This is not about shortcuts, it's about direction. You still need action. Nothing in real life changes without movement. No amount of thinking or speaking replaces effort, discipline, or consistency. What changes is the internal state behind that action. Because two people can take the same action but with completely different mindsets and end up with completely different results over time. That is where the real shift happens. Words are not the end goal, they are the starting point. The language you use influences your mindset, and your mindset is what determines how you approach everything in your daily life, whether you hesitate or move forward, whether you give up quickly or persist, whether you notice opportunities or ignore them. Words change mindset. That is the first step in the chain. When your internal dialogue shifts, your perception begins to shift with it. You stop interpreting everything through the same limited filters you used before. Mindset changes behavior. This is where things become visible in real life, because behavior is what people actually see. It shows up in your decisions, your confidence, your willingness to try again, your response to challenges, and your consistency when things don't go your way. Behavior changes income, not instantly, not in a straight line, but over time through repeated patterns. The way you show up in opportunities, the way you handle responsibility, and the way you respond to uncertainty all contribute to your financial direction. So while the idea starts with simple words, it doesn't end there. It moves through layers of thinking, action, and real-world outcomes, each one building on the previous without skipping the necessary steps in between. Money was never running away from you. It was never avoiding you, never ignoring you, and never reserved for only a few people while excluding others. That idea itself is what creates distance in the mind, because the moment you believe something is out of reach, your thoughts start treating it like something separate from you, instead of something you can understand, access, and build a relationship with. Your mind just wasn't aligned with it, and that misalignment is not something permanent. It is built over time through repetition, experience, and the language you absorb every single day. The way you were taught to think about money, the way you heard people around you speak about it, and the way you internalize those patterns without questioning them. That is why even when opportunities appear, they sometimes don't feel real, or they feel risky, or they feel like not for me, not because the opportunity is wrong, but because the internal alignment hasn't matched it yet. Money was never running away from you. It responds to attention, decisions, and direction, and those are shaped internally long before they show up externally. The gap people feel is often not a lack of opportunity, but a mismatch between what they are prepared to notice and what is actually available around them. Your mind just wasn't aligned with it, but alignment is not fixed. It shifts when thinking shifts. It adjusts when repetition changes. It evolves when new patterns replace old assumptions. And slowly, without dramatic moments, the way you see money begins to feel less distant and more integrated into everyday choices, awareness, and understanding. Money was never running away from you. It was always part of the same system you are already in. The only difference is whether your mind recognizes it, responds to it, and moves with it instead of against it. Try it for the next 7 days and watch what changes. Not because something dramatic will instantly happen overnight, but because something subtle will start shifting inside your thinking. The way you talk to yourself, the way you respond to money-related thoughts, and the way you notice opportunities will slowly begin to feel different. If this made sense, don't ignore it. Most people hear ideas like this and move on, but very few actually test them in their own life long enough to see the pattern. And that's where the real difference is created, not in understanding alone, but in consistent application, even when it feels small or uncertain at first. You don't need to force anything. Just start paying attention to your words. Notice what you repeat daily. Notice how those words make you feel and what kind of mindset they are reinforcing. Then gently shift them, step by step, without pressure. Let it become a quiet habit instead of a temporary effort. Over time, these small internal changes begin to reflect in your decisions, your confidence, and the way you approach opportunities. Nothing happens instantly, but everything starts to move in a new direction when your thinking changes consistently. If you found value in this video, like it so more people can see this message and benefit from it too. And make sure to subscribe to our channel for more powerful insights like this. where we break down mindset, manifestation, and hidden patterns in a simple and practical way. Stay consistent, stay aware, and observe what starts to change when you begin to speak to yourself differently.